Here we go. Week 14. Last week of this semester. We actually have a little piece of 15 a day or so, but this is really the last 4 weeks. So that means this is your last video lecture for this semester. What we are going to talk about, the area we're going to look at, is some motivations and some motivational typologies in reference to crime. These span different crime types. This is more looking at a broader view of the typologies on why people commit certain crimes. If you're truly doing a profile for a specific kind of case, a rape or an arson or, even murder or mass murder, you want to be a little more specific and use those typologies if you can for the profile that we identified in each one of those sections. But this is still something worth knowing because it does give you some basis and background for some idea by why people commit certain crimes. Now, if you want more information on that, we do the criminology course in the fall that goes through that. There's a shameless plug for you. Also, just to give you a heads up, this week is still going to end on Sunday at 11:30 p.m., which means you have a discussion post and a assignment both due by Sunday night. The class actually ends for instruction on Monday night. That's why your final exam, your last chapter test, and your project are both due on Monday. So your assignment for this week and your discussion post for this week are due on Sunday. Your project and the final exam, I keep calling it final, it's not a cumulative final. Your last chapter exam are due on Monday. Alright, let's get to this. Part of what we need to start with this, I like this definition of motivation. Any force that activates and gives direction to your behavior. Any force or action that gives direction to your behavior. That's what we're talking about with these motivational typologies. Now, there's a whole bunch of studies that jump all over the board for these. Many of them mirror individual typologies for individual crimes. And I'm going to mention some of those, but we're not obviously going to go into detail because we went into detail with those when we did those individual crime types. But this kind of starts with a idea of two main motivating actions. One being emotion and one being self-esteem. People do stupid things, say stupid things, act stupid ways because of emotions. Many times, I'm sure in your own life, you've said something or done something based on an emotional response to a certain stimulus. Sometimes that emotional action makes your behavior be criminal. You act out on that emotional input in a criminal way. We can try to say, well, I'm not going to do that, or I wouldn't do that, until that emotional input becomes so strong that then you do something like that. In investigations, you see it all the time. People seemingly who would not respond with criminal behavior do something based on an emotional response or action. And when they get caught, they're questioning why they did it. You're questioning why they did it. And it comes down simple. They responded with an emotional response. The second part of that is the self-esteem. People also are, with the motivation, that force or action, being self-esteem. Either low self-esteem or high self-esteem. We've talked about rape typologies based on low self-esteem. There's also motivations about high self-esteem. You hold yourself in higher regard than everyone else around, and therefore you think you can do crime because why not? You're better, smarter, whatever than the other people around you. Again, both of these, low self-esteem and high self-esteem, are definitely motivators for committing crime. Kind of the next group covered in here is a study that was done, make sure I get this right, by two Swedish guys, Gertsson and Signigsson, or something like that. And they looked at 4 motivating factors: provocation, financial, excitement, and consequence. And again, they're trying to apply this to almost every kind of crime type. Provocation could be a positive provocation in their study or a negative provocation. Do it or else something bad happens to you or family. That would still be a provocation. Positive provocation is do it and the rewards we split. The rewards you get. The self-esteem is raised because you're now part of the group. Those are all provocations. Financial. That one always pops up in every typology. And sometimes we forget. If it's not a theft or a robbery, some other kind of property-related crime, we forget that people commit crime for financial gain. We don't want to think that way. We see movies and TV shows all the time, about killing Uncle Bill because you're the only one left in the will, and so you're going to get all of his money. That stuff really takes place. People commit crimes for financial gain all the time. Every kind of crime, ranging from the worst and most heinous to even basic minor crimes. There are a group of people who the idea of financial gain motivates them to commit crime. Excitement, similar to profit or financial. There are a group of criminals out there that just commit crime, sheer for the excitement. Now, we talked in serial murder and serial rape, and even some in serial arson, that there is a segment of that group that physically get excitement from doing the crime, doing the rape, doing the murder, doing the torture related to the murder or the rape, or from the excitement of the fire, seeing the fire burn. But understand there's other people that love the excitement. They love the thrill of trying to shoplift, see if they can get away with it. You'll read stories every once in a while about some rich and famous person gets caught shoplifting. Well, why are they doing that? Not because they need the item, not because they can't afford to buy the item. They're doing it for the excitement. Can I get away with it? Can I conceal this and get out the door without anyone catching me? That's all an excitement motivation for crime. And then the last one on their grouping is consequence. Most of us choose not to commit crime because we've weighed those consequences of what would happen if we get caught, of our life being ruined, of us losing our job, of us losing a relationship, of going to prison. We weigh all those consequence factors and we make a choice. I don't want to commit this crime because I don't want to take the risk of the consequences. Because of that, sometimes we have a hard time understanding that there is a group of criminal that weighs the consequences and chooses the other way and says, I don't give a darn about the consequences. Committing this crime for me is more important to me than any consequence that you're going to put on me. And therefore they choose to commit the crime. The value to them of committing the crime, no matter what they've put that value at, is more important to them than the threat of the consequence. So those are the four motivations from those two Norwegian guys that I can't pronounce their names properly. The next groupings really are the ones that start mirroring other typologies that we've already looked at. They even have the same names: anger reassurance, power assertiveness, power reasserts, anger retaliatory, profit, stuff like that. I'm not going to go through all those same terms, those same typologies. We've done it for those other crimes. The last part, if you go into your book, your textbook, when they start talking about motivations, they start talking about victimology and victim motivations. The only thing I'm going to really go into on this is you've got to be very, very careful. And we mentioned this in prior chapters. You got to be very careful when you start typing victims. Society does not like for us to bring up the idea that victims may have some portion, I don't want to say of the blame, but some portion of them being victimized. That because of some motivations, again, it can be emotional, it can be self-esteem, it can be the way you carry yourself, it can be the way that you present wealth, that you identify yourself to criminals as a suitable victim. We go back in prior review of a criminological theory that identifies 3 things that need to take place for a crime to occur. And you have to have a willing suspect, someone who wants to do the crime. You have to have lack of a capable guardian. So you have to have lack of someone there to stop the crime. And you have to have a suitable victim. When you start talking victim motivations, you're talking what are making people suitable victims to those willing suspects. The chapter identifies some things, identifies some studies and some typologies. Go through and look at them. They're worth noting, but as a profiler, you're not going to spend a lot of time profiling victims. You're there to profile suspects. Alright, that's it for this video. See ya!